General Durrani, with the benefit of hindsight, if nothing else, do you now regret the role that Pakistan, and in particular Pakistani military intelligence, the ISI that you were once in charge of, played in giving the world the Taliban?
What we did was the requirement at that time. Still today, I won't say that one regretted it. One played the card as it was to be played.
You look back and say, if I could do it again, I'd do it the same way. You were in charge of a lot of that policy at the time.
One would have done it a little better job, certainly. No doubt about that.
When you say better job, you would have given us more Taliban or less?
No.
If you're saying that they've got potential support, undeniably they do. Yeah. They represent factions in Afghanistan, undeniably they do. That means, yes, you try and bring them into a political process. Yeah. It doesn't mean you actually secretly, behind the scenes, support their so-called insurgency and help them by giving them weapons and letting them blow stuff up.
How else would anyone speak to them unless they have some power potential? Unless they can show the ability, as I said, so 2002, if you reject them, you are out.
So it's old-fashioned.
You no longer count.
It's old-fashioned ends justify the means.
Is it old-fashioned?
Well, modern.
Oh, I thought it was very modern. Unless a party is in a position to play a role, no one is going to talk to them. This talking from a position of strength is a big myth.
Hold on. Well, you seem to want it both ways. On the one hand, you're saying we had to talk to them because they had so much support, but they can only have so much support when we gave them weapons to blow stuff up. It's a bit of a contradiction.
If a ragtag militia of 25,000 insurgents, with the help of a state which is considered to be either failing or faltering or fumbling, like Pakistan, if they can achieve this particular status, then the least that I expect from an audience like this, in a country where, they talk about the spirit of Eton and Harrow, to give the Taliban and their supporters in Pakistan a big applause.
Applaud the Taliban? Well,
absolutely. Yeah.
According to the UN, of the 3,000–4,000 people, civilians, who were killed in Afghanistan last year, the Taliban killed 75% of them. Is that what you want us to applaud?
How many were killed by the occupation forces?
Well, 75% were killed by the Taliban.
Maybe a little less. But I'm not contesting the figures.
You're an educated man, you're a general, you're a senior person. Your response to me saying that they've killed 3 out of 4 civilians last year cannot be, how much did the other side kill? We are not in the playground, General. Yes. 75% of the civilian casualties were caused by the Afghan Taliban. You want us to applaud that?
This is the nature of this war. It's futile to say they should have killed a few less, but in this type of warfare, people would die.
Are you saying that it is justified in this war for the Taliban, as they do, to blow up schools full of kids? Yes or no?
I'm not justifying anything.
Sounds like you are to me.
I'm not justifying anything. I'm just trying to explain.
You've said in the past that the US and Pakistan are, quote, at war against each other.
Yeah.
Is that still your view?
Yeah. This was a big illusion on part of, let's say, Pakistan. They deluded themselves in believing that they were allies. Actually, they were not. The allies have the same objective, which we did not have. The allies also agree on a certain approach, on which we did not.
It's different to say we are at war. You use the phrase that America and Pakistan are at war.
Right.
The reason I bring this up is it's a funny sort of war in which one side gives the other side billions of dollars in aid, and the other side takes the money, pockets it, and then goes and helps the enemies of the people who gave them that cash. That's a weird sort of war.
I think we got much less money than we should have.
Okay.
People of the least.
They certainly didn't give you money to go and help their enemies and give safe houses to Taliban leaders and coordinate their activities in Afghanistan with roadside bombs, etc., etc.
So we fooled them.
Is that what you think? You fooled them?
No harm in doing that.
Basically, the behavior of Pakistan in recent years, and which you're clearly so proud of, is the behavior of a quite treacherous and duplicitous country.
If you cannot ride 2 horses, you have no business to join the circus.
Okay.
You know who gave that advice?
No.
Lord Robertson, who was an illustrious British diplomat, Secretary General of NATO, and he was talking to Cohen, the Defense Secretary of the United States. These states play double games. And if we did it successfully, I suppose this is again in the nature of this thing.
If you said, you know what, we don't do morality, we get things done. The problem is you don't get things done either. Even on a practical level, what you're doing hasn't worked. So take, for example, the Pakistani Taliban, the so-called TTP, who are an offshoot inspired by the Afghan Taliban. No. They are now blowing up kids' schools in Pakistan. They have been carrying out gross acts of terror for the past few years. Pakistani soldiers, people you served with, have died at their hands. That is a Frankenstein's monster that you lot created. That is a blowback from your pragmatic policies.
Collateral damage. There is a price to be paid for this type of game. It's a high-stake game.
Of kids is collateral damage.
Right.
On a practical level, how does it help you that the groups you once armed and supported are now attacking you? Is that what you planned? Is that what you're saying? You knew this was going to happen and you approve of it?
The gain is that Afghanistan is more or less free of the foreign occupation. The gain is that Afghanistan can be reunited, reunified, and then whatever would be left with the TTP, one will have to deal with them. Nothing comes free of cost. This is not a game for the weak-hearted people.
Would you describe the parents who lost kids in Peshawar in that school attack as weak-hearted people?
I do not have to justify anything. I do not even try and describe what is good and what is bad. I'm just trying to, for the benefit of everyone here, say how these things get
clearly
done.
You do believe in good and bad because you think freeing Afghanistan of foreign occupation is worth all these deaths.
Now, what we've just heard, I think, is an absolutely breathtaking display of realpolitik. And while General Durrani might believe that nothing comes free of cost, the price paid by Pakistan for the policies pursued by the ISI are entirely too high, have been entirely, I mean, we have lost more than 30,000 people in Pakistan. And that is unacceptable for a war that obviously went extremely wrong. It shows a massive failure on the part of this self-defeating strategy, because what you've done by pursuing this policy is sacrificed a whole country.